Greetings. This is Skyler Saunders seeing what's current. This show is going to be all about the space race. Yes, something that I'm very interested in. I'm currently listening to a book called When the Heavens Went on Sale by Ashlee Vance. I recommend it highly. It's already very entertaining and enlightening. Make sure you hit up my PayPal and my Cash App. Please support the machine. I would appreciate that very much. And let's keep it rolling. For all of you out there who are, I guess you can call us space junkies, we're excited. I mean, from a government standpoint, and what the book. What, I always forget it. Hold on. When the heavens went on sale, and that's mainly about the private companies that are considering going into space and exploring and using satellites to go around the Earth and around near Mars. But you know what the catch is? They can't have any satellites that view government satellites. So private companies cannot have any connection with government satellites in that realm. But what most companies are trying to do, like SpaceX, they're trying to put out different satellites that will allow for the transmission of internet services. So it's a really cool thing. I mean, this is going back all the way back to 1969. When Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon, set foot on the moon, and with Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins in the ship. I mean, this is just an exciting period in the race for getting their just due. All the figures. There's different people like a general who wanted to have the satellites or the rocket to go off, and how he teamed up with Elon Musk and how they became a team. And so it's just a wonderful and a glorious time period that we're in right now, because just like in 1969, there was the war raging in Vietnam. There was considerations about the economy. There was consideration about LB, and then there was Woodstock and all kinds of different music acts and things of that nature. Ayn Rand made a beautiful connection and a distinction between the people of Apollo 11 and the Woodstock people. She called it Apollo and Dionysus, within her essay Apollo 11, and she made the claim that we have like a bacchanalia with Woodstock, and you have Apollo, like the Greek gods. So I just wanted to just take this time to reflect on and go into the look ahead with what we're going to be doing with the space race. Now I'm only 3 chapters in the book, but I'm starting to learn a little bit more about how there have been failures, and how long it took for SpaceX to get the Falcon 1, and how important that was, how groundbreaking it was for a private organization to put its chips down on the table and be a full-fledged and complete entity in the space race. That's an amazing feat, and they should be congratulated. Elon Musk is a mixed bag. He's got Twitter things going on, and he's got the electric vehicles going on, and he's one of the wealthiest men of all time, not just in America or in the world, but just of all time. He's worth over $200 billion. So he has the capacity in exploring. Now you have other figures such as Richard Branson with his Virgin Mobile, Virgin Air, Virgin spacecraft. He is, he's not as, probably not as engaged as much as Elon Musk, but somebody who is Jeff Bezos with his company Blue Origin, and he has definitely taken another step forward with his role as being in the space race. So it's really cool. It's a cool thing that we have this in our wheelhouse as Americans and as citizens of the world. It's a really cool opportunity for us to say that we can continue to explore, because Elon Musk is looking at the moon and at Mars. He wants to have moon to be like a refueling station and have a station for astronauts to be able to regroup and understand what's going on with their mission, and then go on to Mars. That's the main draw. That's the final frontier in a sense when it comes to colonizing and trying to set up different worlds within that framework, within the planetary framework. So if you have any ideas, you have any inclination, Ashlee Vance, definitely did all of his research and definitely put it together. And like I said, I'm not fully finished with the book, but I was just so excited, when I heard this on A1 on NPR. I had to, listen. I had to get this show out because it's something that I'm very interested in. Because if you think about it, you think about the moon, you think about Mars, you think about space. There hasn't been any murders. There hasn't been any major thefts that have been reported. There hasn't been any sexual assaults. There hasn't been any kind of crimes or anything that could mar the human existence. So it's a major step forward for these, what he calls them, giants and misfits. That's what Ashlee Vance calls, some of the figures in his book. He took it upon himself to, explore what it really means. And I was asked a few weeks ago by Mr. Terrain, about whether man really walked on the moon. And of course he did. There's no question. I mean, that was the Apollo program, but during the Gemini program, there were men that died that were, destined to, probably be part of the Apollo program that stretched from the late 60s to the early 70s. And so I would say that the mystique and the grandeur of space and exploration should come first, rather than doubts and conspiracisms, because the conspiracy theory has a bit of truth maybe to it, but a conspiracism is completely a falsehood. So when you have people like Elon Musk with his SpaceX, he's focused on becoming a major player within the sphere. He's focused on creating something that never was created before. Something that everyone can champion and wrap their minds around. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's what the book implies. It says, when the heavens went on sale. And that's the gist of it, that it's privatized, that it's, people are actually going to be making money or losing fortunes. That's what he said in the book. And during the audio book I was listening to, he said, there's millionaires that are, drinking at a bar, drowning their sorrows because they lost a fortune in something that they invested in. But that's not everybody's story. I remember when, the Falcon 1 or one of the spacecraft, when it lifted off that platform for the spaceship, for instead of a shuttle, that was amazing, because one of our worst presidents, Barack Obama, canceled the shuttle program, and that was a problem. That was an issue. That was going backwards, because I do support NASA to an extent, especially in 1969. I definitely in support of the government playing a role in space exploration, because they have the most money, because it's based on tax dollars. And if you're going to use something, you might as well use it for something as good and as enlightening as space travel. That's what is so important. That is something that needs to be explored. No pun intended. Um, if you really take into account all the different missions, the different shuttle explosions and different disasters that occurred, it probably made people have a different view of what space travel looks like. And even in this recent SpaceX launch, when it sputtered off the launch pad and exploded, it was divisive. It was a controversy. People on one side were saying, "Oh, it was a success. It was good that we tried it. We wanted to look what we're going to see about our failures, and we're going to try to fix it and make it better next time." Other people were like, "See, again, they're going to fail. All they're going to do is just not have success and just be a disaster the whole time." And that's just not the case. And they're continuing. That's a beautiful thing. SpaceX is continuing on, using their spirit as evidence of their ability to go into the heavens. And that's what Mr. Vance is talking about. He's talking about all the ways that it's clear that someone has the gall and the wherewithal that has the money, has the bucks to back it up. Mr. Elon Musk, he has every intention of going to the moon and going to Mars. And to do that, he's going to need, as much capital as it is required. And it's not using any taxpayers' money. That's beautiful. It's all private. So the heavens are up for sale. It's up for anybody who wants to get in and get with the idea of making and continuing on the process of space exploration. Now, you have so many different figures. There's so many people that they're jostling and jumping forward in the race. Like I said, Jeff Bezos, another man, one of the most richest and most wealthiest men of all time. He's worth over $100 billion. I think he took a few losses in the past few months, but he's still doing very well for himself. If you got over $100 billion, he is focused because of Blue Origin. Now, Blue Origin is one of the best companies for space exploration because it is one of the best because it participates in a new. I'm just reading this from a headline. It participates in a new round of collaborations with NASA on space tech. So you have Blue Origin and you have SpaceX both cooperating with and collaborating with the government, the United States government. But you also have other, space exploration companies from China and India, especially. And what they're doing is they're trying to make sure that whatever problems that may occur do not happen. That's the idea. That's the whole scheme of things. That is what is most important. That's what is most key to being a part of all of this. So, I say to you, are you excited? Because I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm excited for all the people in space, for the NASA mission to Mars that's coming, to the moon that's coming up. The first man of color going to walk on the lunar surface. A woman going to walk on the lunar surface. These are big events, and it's very exciting. It's a very exciting and fast-paced time. And all the engineers, think about all the brain power. That's the best part of it. To think about it, you have to go into the minds, the men of mind and the women of mind, the engineers, the technicians, the specialists, everybody that's involved that has to make sure these things go right. Because we all know what happened in the past with the shuttles of Challenger and Columbia. And so we have to realize that as we send out unmanned missions to Mars and send out, cameras that costs multi-billions of dollars. We have to realize that it is all for the good of humanity. It's all for the good of especially Americans. That's what it is for. That's why we do these things, because we want to make sure that everyone is able to participate. And if they're not able to participate, you're able to witness it. That's a beautiful notion. That's a wondrous ideal that we are able to even come to grips with. And the idea that our current technology, such as our iPhones and our Samsung phones and our Google phones, are more equipped with more memory than the this rocket that went to the lunar surface. That's a fact. And that's very amazing. So if that's the case, then we should have enough people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk that are ready and willing to take on the different goals of what it means to be a space traveler. Excuse me. As we sit here on Earth, we look up to the heavens, we look up to the stars, we look up to the sky, and we see the moon. I remember, during this, I'm a 90s kid. I was born in the 80s, but I was raised in the 90s and early 2000s. And I remember a movie called Apollo 13. Now, this was a very, gripping, exciting movie, but it was very sad and depressing too, in a certain way. And it's an actual true story. And it's where the famous line, "Houston, we have a problem," comes from. And I just remember Tom Hanks going into looking up, and he's just flipping his thumb, seeing the moon like that. Like that just charged me, because like we're sitting on the earth, we're standing on the earth, and this rock that's 200,000 plus miles away, and we're going to get there. Sadly, of course, the Apollo 13 mission, and spoiler alert, wasn't successful. It did not perform well. It didn't accomplish its mission. What was grateful was still the minds that were involved. The minds that had to say, "Hey, wait a minute. We have to get these guys back to this earth." And they did. Now the mission failed in one regard, but in another sense, it was a successful mission because all three of the astronauts came back to the Earth. That was an amazing feat. That was something that would have been a problem for some other people, but not for NASA. I mean, if you look at another example, the Hidden Figures, the women of color who were called computers, were literally computers. They were the ones doing the numbers, and why they were called Hidden Figures. They were behind the scenes. They weren't at the forefront. But even though the movie played the white savior game with Kevin Costner, but at the same time, it's a true story. So, for people like Katherine Johnson, it's a wonderful thing that she was able to at least see that before her death. I mean, she was able to see the movie. So, I mean, it's just a beautiful thing to realize that, we have a whole lot of other issues. We have mass shootings. We have problems at the border. We have abortion rights issues and all kinds of things like that. And at the same time, we're focused on the moon. We're focused on Mars. At the same time, Americans, that's what we're doing. So we're focused on what it means to be an American today, to be able to champion these causes because they're so meaningful. They're a lot of fun. I mean, it's a great enjoyment to understand the fact that we're sending men and women to the moon. Now it's NASA, and it's taxpayer dollars, but I still support it, and I still acknowledge it because it is an amazing feat for the American people to recognize and realize how far we've come in these past few decades. It's a wonderment that we have so many people like engineers. It's part of STEAM: science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. All these things combine to create something of worth. Because if you didn't have the science, you wouldn't have any understanding of what is real, what is actually tangible, or what is physical on the world. Technologies you have. The actual brain work, and the guess work, and the activity of the mind that goes into building, constructing, and creating. And art, even though it may not seem like that much of a big deal, but it is. Art inspires people to do these amazing feats. It inspires people to continue to do the ideas that create and make people believe and understand what's going on. And of course, mathematics. If you don't have the math right, you can. I remember seeing an article on my science teacher's wall, and it was about an orbiter that cost, I think, $2 billion or $200 million, something like that. And it was lost because somebody didn't do the right calculation. They missed out on a whole orbiting machine and spacecraft because of the fact that they didn't get their math right. So with all these things combined, you get a beautiful showcase like what happened in 1969. All of that was happening. The Vietnam War, terrible, ugly, stupid, senseless, altruist, selfless, sacrificial war. And we were looking up at the stars. We were looking up at the moon. We were looking up at these three brave men that actually made a difference in the American lifestyle, American livelihoods, an American grasping what it means to be an American, to want to go for more, to get bigger and do better. That's the key to this. That is what is so important to realize. When you have the person that you call out to be, and you say like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they didn't ask. They didn't ask any questions. They said, I got this money and I'm going to get it to my own personal use, and I'm going to make these spacecraft. I'm going to do that. And that's what is so amazing. They're trying to cater to the 3.5 billion people that don't have access to the internet. 3.5 billion people don't have access. They want to put satellites up into the orbit to allow for people to get on the internet, to have access. That's a beautiful thing. We should all be dancing in the streets because of this stuff. I'm excited for that. This space race is an exciting period in our lives. It creates wonderment. It creates awesome results. Now, of course, like I said, there have been failures, and we have to learn from our failures. We have to pick up the pieces. Of course, there's going to be failures, but you don't let those failures set you back. They may be setbacks, but you don't have to sit back on your setback. I coined that. I just came up with that. Nobody take that, please. No, you don't fall back on your failures. You bounce up from them. You rise up from them. You do something that's never been done before. You do something that's challenging, that's hard, that makes it worthy of creating something that is good and wholesome and right. Like I said, no major crimes have ever been committed in space. Not yet. Hopefully we'll get to a point where we'll be able to vet, people, or have a way of understanding, so there's not going to be a way, for people to be fighting or menacing or anything like that. We're going to get to that point where there's going to be possibly millions, or if not billions, of people on the moon and Mars. That's decades down the line, but hey, it looks like it's coming. I mean, the way that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos act, they seem like they want it today. And the late, great Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft with Bill Gates, another billionaire. Before his death, he wanted to invest in different projects that helped out spacecraft. That's what's so important. That's what's so powerful. That's what makes it all make sense. That's what keeps us together. That's what lets us know that we are in this thing not only together, but as individuals working together. You want to collaborate, not go over each other's heads. It's a competition. That's why they call it the space race. It's a nice little rhyme. It's a competition, but it's also collaborative. Just like music, just like hip hop, rappers. They're collaborative, they're competitive, but they also collaborate. The same thing goes to the space race. So many people are ready to say, "Oh no, I'm not worried about that. I'm not into that. I'm not. That has nothing to do with me. I'm worried about what's going on down here on Earth. I don't have anything to do." No, this is about you too. If you are a human being, if you are an American citizen, especially, this has everything to do with you. This is about exploration, and this is about, hopefully, and I'm going to say irrational, hopefully, commerce. Let it be about commercialism, commercialize space. Have the moon be a place for real estate, and have a place for the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution to be extended upon those different craters on the lunar surface. Have it be a place for the people that know what they're doing with their lives, that are selfish, that are concerned with their own well-being. Let them be the ones that are challenging everything, challenging everyone's expectations, and succeeding, excelling, taking seriously everything that they do. That's the key. That is what's so important. That's what has to happen. That's what is so crucial to this space race. When you have, so many people involved, like I said, the scientists, the engineers, everybody that has to go through it, the mathematicians, everybody. Art, like I said, Apollo 11, even though it's based on true events, it's still artistry. It has to be made. It had to be a director, writer, actors. Those are all part of art, aesthetics. So, I mean, you have to, there's the stuff with Chuck, they made a movie. There was a movie with, I can't remember the actor's name, but he played Chuck Yeager. That's what it was during the time period of the mid 1900s, 50s and 60s, especially. Even in the 40s, post-war, World War II, 1946 on. We have come so far. We have come far politically, socially, economically. We should be excited. We should be jumping up for joy for this whole experience that we're going to be living through these next few months and these next few years. When you have people that are so ingrained and so enmeshed in the culture of spacecraft and space exploration, it's such an important thing to realize. It's something that is so important to not just realize, but just to recognize it as well. To take the time to realize that you have your Jeff Bezos and you have your Elon Musk and so many others, so many people that are in the shadows. They're today's hidden figures, but they'll come out to the light. It's another artistry, another movie based on actual events with artists that had to be had to make a film. That's what I'm talking about. That's that's to get our blood going. You know, it's to get our blood pumping, our hearts pumping, our brains working. That's what happened. And not a lot of people, may care about it, but I certainly care about it. I think it's a great and grand ideal. It's one of the best things we could possibly do. Continue to explore. Just like the people in the 1400s and the 1500s in that time period. Christopher Columbus. If there were no Christopher Columbuses, there'd be no United States of America. His exploratory, he was a nut job. He was crazy. He was a religious nut, but at the same time, and he didn't treat his fellow brown people as well. He didn't do that too great. He wasn't that wonderful, but he was such an explorer that he took it on himself. He was an Italian that had to go to Spain to get equipped with enough ships to go because he was almost exiled from Italy, so he had to go to Spain and use the Pinta, the Ana, and the Santa Maria. But he explored, and he found a new world. He found a completely fresh land that had people on it that he didn't really care about much either. They're mixed bags. Everyone from Christopher Columbus to Elon Musk to Jeff Bezos, mixed bags. All three men and many more. Just throw them in the bag, a bag, and they'll be all mixed together because they have mixed premises, mixed moralities, and mixed ethics. But we have to champion their goodness. We have to champion their greatness. What happened when they decided to launch those ships, to launch those rockets? That's the thing we have to pick up on. That's the thing we have to really recognize and acknowledge. So I'm still listening. I'm going to continue to listen. And I might have another show. I might just make this a series. The Space Race. Mr. Vance's book. It's already looking like it could be option for a movie. It's got colorful characters. It's got wonderful locales. And it's all about trying to get these daggone spacecraft into the air, into the space. That's all it's about. It's all about the people behind all those rockets, all those failures, all those successes, the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the topsy-turviness. That's what it's all about. It's all about having the capacity to know what you're doing and continue to do what you're doing. That's it. That is the essential. They know what they're doing. They have money and they're knowing they know what to spend it on. They're billionaires and they have the possibility. I remember Lewis Black had a comedic, routine, or just saying like, hey, let's build our own space program. Like he was saying it jokingly, what billionaires do. He was saying it as a joke. He wasn't like saying, oh, let's have a billionaire make a space program. He was just saying like, hey, let's have our own space program. Like he said it just like that. But that's what's happening. That's what came into fruition. And that's a good thing. That's a virtuous thing. That's something that we should look up to. That's something that we should acknowledge on the level of how they were able to make enough money to launch these spacecraft, to not launch these spacecraft, have them fail, have them go off and blow up in their faces, and go right back to the drawing board, right back to the digital board. That's the amazing part about it. That's the wonderful part about it. That's why the space race exists. That's why it's up for sale. That's why it's up for grabs. Whoever's got the most money, let's do it. Because it's not about whoever has the most toys wins. It's about who has the most spacecraft that can actually function properly, That's the new thing. If you have enough gall to say that you're going to put out spacecraft into the orbit, then that's something that should be acknowledged and should be championed. Like Mr. Vance, he was just saying how I think his name was General Garner. He was playing the Hidden Figure scene for a while, but he was one of the best figures so far. He was an officer in the Air Force. He was a PhD, and he just wanted to make his name be put out there. He wanted to say that he was somebody too, and he ended up in Vance's book. That's a beautiful thing. When you have so many different figures, so many people jockeying for position, and wanted to make it a special event for them to launch these aircraft and spacecraft. They call them, there's one thing they call them are called space planes. There's these planes that are like just like planes that fly above 30,000 feet above the earth. There's space planes. So you have shuttles, you have rockets, shuttles, space planes. We're dealing with rockets for now. A lot, that's what's going to be in the NASA mission. They're going to be all to the moon. All those figures that I mentioned, they're going to be for everything we do. Everything we do should be, geared towards, uplifting these heroes and heroines. We have so many troubles. We had the debt ceiling going on. We got like I said, the migrants, mass shootings. There was just one today in New Mexico. We got all kinds of problems. We're messed up in a lot of ways, but we don't stop. We don't say, "Oh, poor America, poor us. We can't get our problems together. Oh well," and put our sit on our hands. No, we get up and go. We go to work. We play. We have an amazing country that we can still have a good time in. We can still support the achievers, the men and women of the mind, the men and women that want to make a change in this world through the amazing parts of space. We're going to the moon. We're going back to the moon. 2024, next year. Going to the moon. And that's exciting. It's NASA. I know. I'm repeating myself on that. But it's so true. Even if it weren't a woman or a man of color. If it was an all-white team, if it was an all-yellow team, red team, brown team, if it was all women, if it was all men, I wouldn't care. Because I know it's all about brain power. Whoever has the most brains, whoever has the most mind power, that's what counts for me. That's what makes most sense to me. The ones who know how to do anything that is to their mind, that can create, can produce, can build. That is the power. That is what is so important. That is what is so needed in our world today, and especially in America today, because we are challenged with so many different problems. We have so many different issues. But just like in 1969, war raging, thousands of American citizens, servicemen, and I guess 2 women, a few women probably, coming home in plastic bags, coming home in American flag draped coffins. But we're on the moon. Gil Scott Heron, he had a famous poem, Whitey's on the Moon. He was talking about how all the different inner city issues and problems and blight was going down, was happening. And he said Whitey's on the moon. But he needed to be on the moon. We had to go on the moon. Because it is about exploration. It's about understanding our own environments and our own worlds and our own lives. That's what it is to be in the space race. And it's all up for sale, as Mr. Vance said, when the heavens went on sale. That's the power. That's the might that we have to have and we have to show and have to continue to be inspiring and challenging and wanting to bring about more change in the world. And look at the children, look at the people, look at the human beings that have been in the space. They were once little kids looking up at the moon, looking up with a telescope at Mars. And now they're on space programs. Now they're in missions. And I hate that term. Oh, he came from humble beginnings. Who didn't come from humble beginnings? We don't come out of the womb, fully formed and ready to go. We're toddlers. We're just like this relationship with a space program. We have failures. We fell. We got up. We cried. We laughed. We did all sorts of things at the same time, and we grew. And we had growing pains. We had awkward phases and different things like that. But we continued on. And they did too. And they became adults and said they want to go out into the space programs, whether private or government. But I'm mainly focused on the private because that's what the book is about. Privatized space, yes. For now, NASA, because it has the most equipment, has the most spacecraft, has the most brains. That's the key. NASA has the most brain power that overshadows Blue Origin and SpaceX combined. And what's so beautiful is that Blue Origin and SpaceX are working with the government. They're working on the different problems that beset so many other programs. The fact that they're collaborating is a beautiful thing. They're not, saying, well, we're private, we're never going to do anything government. And of course, they get their government kickbacks and they get different funds, washed back and forth. But it's still a beautiful, understanding of how the different programs still work together. We have so many different issues, so many problems, and that's what people worry about. Why are we worried about space? We need to be worried about what's going on on Earth. That's Gil Scott Heron, his idea. Whitey's on the moon. That's where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of not understanding the fullness thereof, the fullness of space travel, the fullness of understanding what it means to be a space explorer, of someone who wants to make it in the realm of space exploration, who wants to make it in the realm of being an engineer and a scientist, somebody that has the gall and the wherewithal and the money to back up all of their talk. And another example, I'm giving you all examples. I think this is of course fiction, but it was a great movie, or at least a very good movie. The Martian with Matt Damon, very good movie. Talked about, he didn't have, a struggle with, man mainly, and those are the best conflict, movies. It was mainly nature and man, but it was still engrossing, still, riveting, and you could digest it easily. He's just trying to get off the red rock, that's the idea. They left him behind, but I mean, all these, like I said, STEAM, science, technology, and like engineering, arts, and mathematics. All of them work together, all of them function together to produce what we have. Because, like I said, without the arts, you don't have the understanding of what's going on. Salute to Houston. He's saying, "What up, Skyler? Salute. What up, chat statue? Salute. Cutfield Blunt and chilling. All right, I see you, homie. All right, I understand space travel. If you in a car and go 1 mile, and if you 1 feet walking 1 mile, the person in the car has seen what the person on foot hasn't. In simple terms, that's a very great observation, sir. And it's a coincidence that you call yourself Houston because you also are from Houston, which is obviously the one of the epicenters of space travel. That is a key element of what it means to be an astronaut. That's the main purpose of it, what it means. To be somebody that is so committed and so focused on what it is to be in this space race. And I'm enjoying it. I'm looking at, I'm listening to the audiobook just on chapter 3, and I'm getting every bit of it, of enjoyment and understanding at the same time. I mean, we mine so many of our great idealists and inventors and creators. Elon Musk comes straight to mind. Now, I said he's a mixed bag. They're all mixed bags, really. There's no really true human being that is moral and ethical in the outside culture. Within the inside culture of objectivism and people that are, not even objectivists, but students of Ayn Rand, or just people who are rational and people who don't do anything that's wrong, who are moral. That is the key part, who are selfish. That's the key. That's who I'm speaking to and I'm speaking about. Because Elon Musk is doing what he wants to do because he can do it. He has the money. He can put up enough funds to do so. That is what is so crucial. Jeff Bezos has the money. He can do what he wants with it. He could burn it for all he wanted. But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to create. He wants to build. He wants to continue on beyond Amazon, which is an amazing, beautiful corporation. But he wants to do more. He could have said, I just have Amazon. I'm getting my money. I'm going to be a multi-hundred billionaire, and just kept it moving. But he said, no, I want to do Blue Origin. I want to help out my own people selfishly. I want to do something that's spectacular, something that's unexpected, something that's not already in the books, something that doesn't already have people expect me to do. If you had the chance, would you go on the space race? Would you go on a spacecraft? Because it's going to be like another movie, The Fifth Element. The Fifth Element is one of my favorite sci-fi movies. It shows us, Bruce Willis in a totally different light. He's still cool, but he has to deal with this woman who is the fifth element and the key idea within what it means to be the fifth element. She's the fifth element. There's 4 of the other elements that they have, but she's the 5th one. So they have, it's taxis lined up, and the people are gritty and nasty and everything like that. And that's what's going to happen, in Moon and Mars missions. When we colonize the Moon and colonize Mars, it's going to be just like that. Because it's just humanity. That's what's going to happen. Not everything's going to be perfect. Just like we've seen in so many different instances. We've seen, whole missions getting scrapped. We've seen people, like the astronaut lady, they called her. I can't even remember her name. I'm looking at her name right now. The astronaut lady that had the diaper. And, yeah. Lisa Nowak. She was the astronaut that drove 900 miles to attack her ex-girlfriend. Her ex's girlfriend, excuse me. She was an astronaut. So, I mean, you have different stories like that. I mean, that's a spectacular story. Here's Houston. He's checking in again. She drove from here to Florida in a diaper. Exactly. See, he remembers the story too. It happened. It was crazy. She did something ridiculous. And we looked at that and we were like, wow, that's pretty off the rails. He said, no way. This was in 2006. She's a subject. It's inspired in a 2019 movie called Lucy in the Sky. I mean, we can have that. I mean, we haven't had it yet, and let's take proper precautions and think what happens. Houston's checking in again. I still think old boy got his wife shot. That was the astronaut. Oh wow, I didn't even realize that. That's a good observation, sir. Okay, good job on that. I respect you. Salute. Respect to that. I mean, that's where we are right now. That's the point of, sanity breaking down. And we're going to have that on the moon and Mars. I don't want to wish it. I don't want to, jump the gun and say, but, within the realm of what happened in human nature, that is going to be key. That's what's going to be crucial to mitigate that as much as possible. Houston also says, notice he didn't feel like when she made it, he was happy, but they made him a BS hero. Facts. Facts on facts on facts. See, Houston has the knowledge. He has the knowledge tonight. I appreciate that. Salute. But no, I mean, we have to look at human behavior. And we have to look at the whole grand scheme of things. Because we don't necessarily have to have that. If we go back 400, 500 years, it was a mess. There were wars upon wars. There was the Inquisition. There was the Crusades. There was the 30 Years' War. There was the 100 Years' War. All kinds of different religious wars especially. But there were other wars. And let me tell you this. There hasn't been one war that has been started that hasn't included an idea. Every single war that's ever happened in human history came about because of some ideal. That's a fact. You don't just start fighting people just for your own reason. You have to have some kind of belief system or some kind of moral objective, either good or bad, ill or great. It has to be centered around that. That's the key. But we don't have to have that. Because if we look at a chart, it's going to look like this. It's going to be swooping down from the periods of violence and initiation of physical force and fraud. We get huge stories like, oh my God, Bernie Madoff, he's a fraudster. Oh my God, oh my God, he's a terrible person, and he was a horrible human being. But for every single Madoff, there are probably 10,000 or 100,000 honest figures, maybe 1 million honest figures in finance. Because that's what's so important. Like I said with Musk and Bezos, finance, all of this, NASA, finance. It takes money. The heavens are up for grabs. Heavens are on sale. Space is up for grabs. Whoever has the most money may have the best toys. Not the fact that they die with their toys, but they're trying to live with their toys. They're trying to live with their spacecraft. They're trying to live with bettering people's lives. improving people's lives. Like I said, the satellites that are going to be used for internet. 3.5 billion people on this planet are not watching me right now. A lot less are watching me right now. But they don't have the capability to watch me right now. They don't even have the choice. 3.5 billion. Almost half. There's 8 billion people on this planet so far. And 3.5 billion of them have no access to internet. And these companies, these greedy, selfish, self-centered, no, I don't want to say self-centered, but greedy, selfish, ambitious companies want to make it possible for people to access the internet. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. They would have no other connection. They would have no other idea what it means to be on the internet. This wonderful, gracious, grateful, splendid tool that we use day in and day out and that we take for granted because we're looking down at our phones. We're looking up, different sites. And we just take it for granted. Oh, the internet's going to be here. Until there's a storm or there's some kind of interruption in the service and we lose our minds because we don't know what to do with ourselves. We have to go analog and we don't know what to do. But this space race is very crucial. It's wonderful. It is exciting. I'm amped. I'm hyped. As you can see, I'm jumping. I'm very proud of America when we do things like this. I'm very proud of the individuals that make up America, that make up the sciences and the engineering fields. Especially, like I said, STEAM is very important, but science and engineering, especially, and mathematicians, because we want to make sure those spacecraft go to their direct locations. Because you don't do the math, you don't have the spacecraft in the right area, you can go thousands of miles out of the way. And that's serious. That could be somebody's lives. That could be so many different people's lives. Focus on that. So I say this space race is something that is very vital. It is important to our own sustenance, our own taking in, our own food sources of the mind. Think of that, sustenance for the mind. It gives us the chance to look at who we are and what we want to do. And how we want to do it. How we want to verbalize and vocalize ourselves. To exalt ourselves, to big ourselves up. Saying we can go on a distant surface. We can go on a distant planet. We can do it. We have the power. We have the might. We have the confidence. We have the self-esteem. We have the selfishness that is required. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't cheer for the people in the space race. That, oh, they staged the lunar landing. There were people it was in a sound stage. It was room through 237 from The Shining. Stanley Kubrick came up with all of it. That's complete BS. That's nonsense. Men have died, like I said, during other missions prior to the Apollo mission, to work up to the Apollo mission. Men have failed. They kept their lives, but they didn't get a chance to go on the moon. But like what Mr. Vance says, the heavens are on sale. And I thank you for riding with me. Thank you for taking in my words. I appreciate everyone that viewed me. Thank you, Houston. I appreciate your support as always, sir. Make sure you're sharing. Make sure you're letting other people know about this stream. And we'll have a thing that can build up to something great, I think. So I appreciate your time, and have a great rest of your day or evening or maybe morning. Take care.